our introduction, so we'll start with you, Sultan. Please introduce yourself to the people.
Yes, sir. My name is Sultan Muhammad. I am the local minister here in Grand Rapids, in the Grand Rapids area for the Nation of Islam under Minister Farrakhan. And I'm a brother, first and foremost, before the title of minister. I'm a father, I'm a husband, I'm a man striving to do what is best, not just for myself, but my family and my community. And I'm glad to be here, with you, my brother and friend Kevin and Corey. And I look forward to building and sharing a few things on the spot.
Right. And Corey.
Yeah, well, first and foremost, I'm glad to be here as well. Thank you for having me, both of you.
Thank you for coming.
My name is Corey Soin. Born and raised in Grand Rapids, Michigan. Work-wise by trade now, occupational therapist, working in healthcare here in town. As Sultan was saying, I am a brother as well. I am an upcoming father. Really, really excited about that. Son, I am man that's living and learning day by day, enjoying life. I'm looking forward to sharing some things on the spot as well with y'all.
Well, with the first question, so where do you believe the social divide amongst Americans, African Americans, I should say, began?
Well, I guess I'll go first. In terms of social divide amongst us as a people, you have to look at the context in which we are even identifying ourselves as a people. This idea of being African American comes from our being brought to America from Africa, and not that we came to America looking for a better life or came for seeking the American dream, but were brought to America, not willingly, but unwillingly brought here to be made the slaves of the citizens of America. And when you understand what has happened to us as a people, which I don't intend to go all through the various things that we suffered for now over 400 years in America, but just looking at it on the surface of a whole people being stripped from their native land, being stripped from their people, brought to a strange land amongst a strange people, being stripped of our language, our culture, our religion, our names. I mean, we have nothing of our history. All of that was taken from us. And that's why today we are black like our brothers and sisters who come from Nigeria and Ghana and the Congo and all of these parts of Africa. But the difference is they know some of their language. They know some of their history. They have some connection to a country back there where we just, they ask where we're from. We say, my people from Georgia. My people from Alabama. My people from Texas. We are not able to really reconnect to our root. And so Marcus Garvey said it like this, any people that don't know their history is like a tree without roots. And a tree without roots is dead. You cut the root of a tree, it's dead. And this is the condition that you find us in today as so-called African Americans, which really doesn't describe the depth of who we are. The Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan has taught us as black people, from the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, we are the original people of the planet. Before there was any people on the planet, the black man and woman were here. As you can see, we produce albino children, we produce light-skinned children, we produce dark, black children. We produce the whole spectrum because we're the source of all human beings. That's not racism, that's just science. And scientists bear witness to that. But I say all of that to say that we were here before there was a man named Scipio Africanus that the continent of Africa was named after. We were here before Amerigo Vespucci that America was named after. So African American it's a nice title, but it doesn't get really to the depth of who we are. We are black people, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad said, because black is not a color, it's the essence of color. It is the essence out of which you get brown, red, yellow, white, all of the colors in between. So when we say that we are black, that is what unites us. Despite we may be from this side of the town or that side of town, we may have all these differences, but when we can identify each other as black, then that unites us because we have a common root. So to get back to the question that you asked, to simplify it, a major part of our social divide is that we have been cut off from the roots that would tie us all together. We don't realize how much we have in common. We don't realize how much we really have had the same struggle. We're going through some of the same pains. We've been dealt some of the same blows. But because of the way we have been divided, our families torn up, and everything that has happened to us in this 467 years now of our being in America, we are divided by those who sought to divide us, those who brought us here to be made slaves. And I just say this, if you ever read the Willie Lynch letter, he goes in deep to the lines in which the slave master wanted to divide the slaves. Light versus dark, young versus old, male versus female, this plantation versus that plantation. They sought to do this to us. And when you read the Willie Lynch letter, he said that if we successfully implement these divisions among them, they will self-perpetuate for at least 300 years. That letter was written in 1712. So 300 years from that, you get to 2012. We're in a time now where we can see we have self-perpetuated those divisions amongst ourselves now. Because they knew as long as we were divided, we have no power. They know power is in unity. They know power is in us sticking together, being brothers of one another, and looking out for each other, because that is how they gain power in America and throughout the world. So our social divide is deep, but it's not by accident. And it is a condition that really was put on us, but now we self-perpetuate it, and it's only a knowledge of self at the root that will allow us to tie the branches back together and heal what has been broken apart. I apologize for being so long.
No, you're fine. It's fine. Just to answer
just
that.
The passion.
No wrong answers here.
Yeah.
Corey, same question. Where do you believe the social divide amongst African Americans began?
Flex, I'll try to hit it on the head.
Oh yeah,
for sure.
Definitely.
But honestly, just add to the conversation of what he was saying, being taken from Africa and brought over here. I was reading a book called Barracoon, I don't know, maybe last year. And, long story short, as far as I can tell it is, I want to say, Zora Hurston, I just Walker, it was released, didn't put it out, traditional, black woman's putting stuff out, she's amazing, we can't let her thrive, let's squash this. Mm-hmm. So somebody goes, release it present day, and what it is this woman went down and just interviewed this guy over years and years and years about, his life. He was essentially supposed to be one of the last slaves that came off the slave ship that came over from Africa. Mm-hmm. And it's just a memoir of him, and it goes on to talk about, her having to warm up to him, how sometimes you just can't talk about how happy you are to see her. She just developed this relationship with a man that's forgotten, essentially, And I say all that to say, a part of the book, he's talking about how things were over there. And I want to say it is the Humi or the Hami tribe, not of that dialect, so, I could definitely be saying it wrong. But it's talking about how, was their kings over there that were raiding other villages and capturing their people to sell them off into slavery. So you talk about the social divide, it's this is just, coming from based off this book, but from that, I would dare say that it started before coming here. You talk about the depth of it, it's like we were talking about earlier, how deep does this really run? Before even coming over here, it was, like you said, it was by design. It wasn't it wasn't like it was not strategic, So to answer the question as far as the social divide, I believe it began even prior to that.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Absolutely. Yeah, and I would just just add, to what Brother Corey was saying, that it definitely, it goes beyond our journey and coming over here and being brought over here. And it ultimately points to a defect within us that ultimately can be healed with the right level of knowledge and the right connection to the source of our lives, by whatever name people want to call it. We say God or we say Allah, but that's, it's really our disconnect from Him that causes us to be divided. If you're divided from the one who is the primary relationship in all of our lives, then how can we be properly united with anybody else?
Yeah, that knowledge itself is like, I feel like it was a mystery to me growing up. Because like really with technology, you start hearing about stuff, you get exposed. Like, just constantly other stuff coming out. To me, I'm getting exposed to it. It's like, what does that really mean? And like, speaking to your point, it's like, for me, it's been, you see how you move, why you do certain things, where you're more principled, like where you are as a person, you just know how to live.
Yes, sir.
Based off who you are. So it's powerful thing.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So just moving forward, where did the tension between the black man and the black woman begin, in your opinion? Because, I mean, just to further on that question, like to further iterate on that, you see in today's society, you see a lot of people, like a lot of our young people, they're saying, just to say how they say it, they're saying niggas ain't shit, and girls are constantly at man's neck, man's at girls' neck, gender role things. So where do you think that, like, where does that begin? Like, what stems, like, where does that stem from?
Yes, sir. Well, the thing that we don't like to sometimes come face to face with, because the way society deals with us as a people and what we have been through, we have constantly met with the phrase or the message that what we have been through as black people, get over it. Just get over it. That was so long ago. You guys can't keep blaming everything on slavery and what you all have been through. But you can say that. But the reality is, if we take an honest examination, is that we as a people have not healed from what we have been through. We have had some material gains here and there, some educational. And it's not to say that we have not benefited at all from being in America, but what we have been through, we have not healed. And when you look at what happened between male and female when we were brought here, the men were not allowed to stay with their wife. A man may be sold away from his wife. A man may be made to impregnate multiple women if he was what's called a stud, a strong man, if they wanted to produce strong slaves. A strong man like a brother Corey that's tall and strong, and that they feel could produce good workers like himself. They may make him mate with 3, 4, 5 women, and then if a price comes for one of his children, the children get sold off. The family is not considered a respected unit in slavery. They did not consider the father in many cases a part of the family. So they would sell the father away or sell the wife and the children away. And so we were not allowed to be husbands to our wives. And if we did even try to really be a husband to our wives, and many times in these movies they will openly show how the slave master would come in and take and have a baby by your wife, and then now this is reducing your respect for your own wife, because you can't help but now this baby is not yours. It's a light-skinned curly baby that is the slave master's baby, and then if you try to defend or stand up for your woman, in the movie, there was a movie, I believe it's called The Help. And in the first scene of the movie, the man and his wife are together, and the slave master is clearly, he wants to take the wife. And the man tries to stand up to defend his woman. And the slave master shoots and kills the brother, for trying to stand up for his woman. So we were not allowed to stand up to defend our women's honor. So that caused her to lose respect for us. We were not allowed to really be there for her in that way. So for and this is not just for a couple weeks, a couple years. This is generation after generation after generation of the black family and the male and female relationship being totally destroyed. Not allowing us as men to be the providers, the maintainers, the protectors that we are naturally, but we were not allowed to do that. So now you come up to today where, we are trying to get along. We got a nature that makes us inclined towards the female inclines towards the male, and we don't have a problem getting together physically. We do that too much, be it to our detriment. But we don't know how to relate to each other in a way that will cause us to have a lasting relationship, because really as men, we don't really even know how to be men. We really don't have the kind of black man in front of us that show us how to be the kind of man that a woman could respect, and vice versa. The woman doesn't really know herself and how she would like to be treated in such a way that would really cause her and the man to be united. So we get together physically all the time. But over time, 6 months, a year, maybe a year and a half, we at each other's throat. It's children that have been produced many times, but we, hate our baby mother. And the women hate their baby father. And it's not that they're terrible people, but we don't have really a knowledge of who we are. We don't understand our own nature. And we don't understand the nature of the female. So we get involved physically long before we ever even get to really know each other. So it's very deep, but to not, take up 2 hours, I would just say that, it is rooted from how we have been torn apart first and foremost. But now even in trying to heal that, the only way I can really be a good husband to my wife is that I have to know how to be what a man really is, and a man, and we can't take God out of the equation. He said that he made man in his image and after his likeness, and so that don't just mean I look like him, I got his lips or something, that means that I'm made to be like him, I'm in his image and his likeness, I'm his reflection. And so I have to try to be a man of God. I have to try to be a righteous man. I have to try to be a man of principle, because that nature of God in me, if I'm manifesting it, it will inspire the nature of God in our female, because she has the nature of God too. The Honorable Elijah Muhammad said she is the second self of God. She has God's nature all up inside of her. And if we really want our women to fall in love with us head over heels, you got to try to be a man of God. And when you really are really living that and exemplifying that, the woman can't help but really truly love you. And then as she's learning about who she is and trying to be her righteous self, because we as a people, our nature is righteousness. As black people, we our nature, our heart at the core of us, we don't have to be converted to no religion. All we have to do is be left alone, and we're going to be upright. We're going to be good. We want to do good. But we have been made everything else in this world by circumstance. But if you start trying as a black man to clean up your life and be an example of a godly man, that woman, she'll stand by your side. So we have a saying, and you drop it all the time: God is love.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And the further we get away from God, the further we get away from love. So love is not between the male and the female, because we so far from God. We so far from, as men, trying to be the example of a righteous man. And then we treat our women like we treat them, because if we're not going to treat God well, we're not going to treat his second self well. So much could be said on this. That question alone, we could probably spend the whole day on. But, just to wrap it up, when we start being the men that we are really born to be, our women will be better with us. And as the women start being who they are really born to be, the union is natural. We just got to get all the unnatural stuff out of the way.
And that was a great answer. Yeah, I believe in that, that a person has to know themselves before they can treat somebody well.